Hello, everyone, and happy Halloween. Welcome to the Nividous monthly webinar. I'm your host, Kelly Miller. I work within the business development group at Nividous. Today's spooky topic is robotic process automation in the insurance industry. Before we start, just some brief instructions. If you have any technical difficulties or any questions related to the presentation, please use the questions bar on the side of the control panel. We'll resolve any issues immediately, and we will save time at the end of the presentation to review any questions that come up. If you'd like to review or share a recording of this webinar, it will be posted on our website following the presentation today. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Alan Hester, the president of Nividous in the U.S. Alan, it's great to be with you today.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks. Good to be here. I'm not sure how spooky I will be, but I'll try to put on my spooky voice.
Perfect. So I'll open up the presentation now with a brief introduction to Nividous, and then Alan can go right into our discussion topics. So Nividous has been operating for 8 years. We have offices in India, the UK, and the US. Our team has deep roots in product engineering, which drives a quality of service level in our development relationships. We really focus on digital transformation for our customers, utilizing process automation to drive efficiency and accuracy while concentrating on high quality implementations and really helping our clients to understand a balance between human and robot workforces. So go right ahead, Alan.
Okay. So we'll start with a little bit of an overview of what we see is happening within the insurance industry. Obviously, we're not experts in the insurance industry, but as it would happen, many of our RPA customers are insurance companies, and that's not really because we have specifically targeted insurance as a vertical to go after, but it turns out that there are many parts of the insurance business that are just perfect fits for the use of RPA. So what we're seeing in insurance really is no different from what we see in a lot of other industries right now, but dealing with older systems and older business models that are standing in the way of change and causing difficulty in competition with new entrants to the market that are bringing newer technologies to bear and newer ways of doing things. And that coupled with the fact that just in general, customers out there have so much higher expectations today when it comes to customer service. So I think the demands are great from a technology perspective to step in and try to fill that void. So a lot of things right now are dealt with through manual process, and that's especially difficult in an industry where there is so much focus on compliance and there's a lot of regulations that come into play. Then the last piece is that a lot of business now is being conducted through mobile channels, or really I like to say omni-channel, because I think most customers want the ability to seamlessly move from one channel to the other as it suits their own needs. I threw this quote up there from Deloitte. It's something that we put on our blog post, so if you viewed that, you maybe have already seen this, but I think it's interesting because obviously they're not talking specifically about RPA, they're talking about the insurance industry in general and about some of the challenges that are being faced and how they need to, in Deloitte's opinion, how the insurance industry needs to deal with that. And the reason why I put that up there is because that RPA is really a solution to many of these challenges. So just in case there's anyone out there that's not familiar with RPA, we'll just review it quickly at a very high level. RPA allows you to do automation of tasks that are typically performed by humans on a computer. RPA, even though it has robot in the name, it's not physical robots. It's a software robot that interacts with the software running on the computer through the user interface. So in the same way that a human does. And what that means is that, number one, you don't need really knowledgeable programmers to write a bunch of code and to work through APIs in order to automate something using RPA, but also it will work on pretty much any application that you have a human working on today. So whether that's a web-based application or portal, whether it's a Windows app, or whether it's some kind of legacy app or mainframe application that you're running through Telnet or in some other way, those things can all be automated using RPA. And that's a great advantage as compared to some other automation technologies. So I'm just throwing up there this because a lot of people, when they start thinking about RPA and what possibilities it brings to the table, one of the first things that enters their mind is, well, okay, that sounds really good, but what can I specifically use it for? So within the insurance industry, these are some of the top processes that we have looked at, either implemented for a customer, for a single customer, in some cases many customers already, and a lot of it has to do with data. So when you're thinking about RPA and where are opportunities in your business that you could benefit from RPA, we always tell people to think about those cases where you're using email a lot or where you're using Excel spreadsheets a lot as part of the business process, because typically those are areas where you're using a human and manual work to compensate for no connection between systems. And what I mean by that is you may have a process where someone is receiving an email for something that needs to be part of that data, or all of that data in that email or in a document attached to that email needs to be entered into a separate system. And that needs to be done manually because there's no automated connection between your email client, Outlook or whatever it is, and the system where you're putting that data. And obviously that data normally does not originate in Outlook. It's coming from some other system first. And so if those connections were made seamlessly between that source system and the system where you're putting the data in, it would be great and everything would be perfect. But what we find with a lot of companies is that you don't always have the right resources available to be able to make those connections directly through an API or through a true development level. Or maybe you're working with systems where there is no API. A lot of current web-based or SaaS systems, they don't really have an API, or maybe they have an API, but it doesn't have the right functionality. It won't give you access to the particular data that you're looking for. Or maybe it's just a factor that you're working with a system that's so old that maybe there's no documentation or no one around that remembers how to use it anymore. All of these situations are great use cases for why people are looking to RPA today, and why we say if you look at Excel spreadsheets and email in the process, those are really usually great cases to focus on. Okay, so I'm going to put up a little question here because I have a number of case studies available to go through, and I'm not sure that I will have time to go through all of them. So I'm just throwing this up there so that you could select which of these hold the most interest for you, and I'll try to focus on those ones first. So I can't put up any other slides until this is done. So if you're going to respond to this, try to respond quickly, because I'm not going to keep it open for very long. And here we go. I'm going to wait another second. Well, I know it's more than a second. I see this would be the perfect opportunity if I had some spooky sound effects or some kind of Halloween related thing to play in the background here. That would be very appropriate, but I don't have any of that. Okay, so we're going to close this off, and I'm going to focus first on the ones, well, actually, so the top one was the first one that I had on here anyway, so that makes it easy. Let's move forward. This is actually one of our best, well, best in some ways, because the usage of this system that we have put in place has really mushroomed over time, and it turned into something much bigger than when it was originally started. So this is a situation where we were working with an insurance company that was providing custom quotes for group life insurance, and the process of calculating the quotes was very complicated. It involved using lots of different spreadsheets, and it was all a very manual process. There was a lot of need to go back for clarification to customers, and it made for a very long delay between when the quote was requested and when it could be provided to the customer. And obviously no one is happy to be waiting for a long time, especially when they're looking to spend more money with you. So what we did was we used RPA to kind of fill in the gaps and do all of the heavy lifting that had been done by the humans in this process. And initially, we were able to cut this process that was typically taking about 24 hours, somewhere between 12 and 24 hours, for the quote to be provided back to the customer. And by implementing RPA, we were initially able to cut that back to just a couple of minutes. And we thought, man, this is great. They were able to put something in place that was much better than what they had before. But then as we continued to look at what was being done, we found ways to optimize the process even more and leverage RPA in some different ways, so that the total process was cut down to a matter of seconds, to the point where the portal was able to return a quote just about instantaneously to the customer. And what that did was that created for this insurance company an opportunity to create a whole new channel, whole new line of business, where they are providing this ability not just directly to their customers, but also to their extended network of partners that they deal with, for being able to provide these customized quotes. And so now this is at the point where this system is providing 5,000 quotes per day. It's all done automatically and does not require any human intervention in order to keep it running. So this is the kind of thing that's really a perfect use case for RPA. Okay, so here's the second one we're going to look at. This is representative of one of the big areas for RPA across all businesses, which is pulling data together for reporting reasons. So as I talked about earlier, there are many cases where systems don't talk well together. And what that means for an executive or for a business owner is that it's very difficult then to get the kind of reporting and data and dashboards that you want to have in order to run your business, because you really need to find a way to bring all that data together so that it could all be reported on together to give you the most valuable information. So this is actually a common shortfall of many other RPA systems, is that the data that you're getting out of an RPA system usually is very task focused, meaning that it will give you very detailed data on particular tasks, who is performing them, when they performed that task, the amount of time that it took. But those are all related to the bots themselves. So when you look at a complete end-to-end business process, usually there are still certain parts of the process that are done by humans. So when you consider the complete end-to-end process, that includes all the bots that might play different roles at different points in the process, as well as all the humans that will play different roles, the normal RPA system isn't able to roll all of that data together for reporting purposes to provide the executives within the company with the kind of KPIs or dashboards or reporting that they're needing in order to run their company. So I just throw that out there. It's not actually related to this particular case study, because in this case study, we're really talking about other systems where data was being collected that we then used RPA to pull that data together. So in this case, we had all of these different systems were legacy, and there was no way to report on them together. So they had been using this manual process of pulling it all together in spreadsheets and reporting on it that way. And we were able to automate that all using RPA. And then the other piece of it that's interesting is that in this case, WhatsApp was used to send out the renewal notifications. So this is something that we're seeing more and more, especially outside of the US. Although I talked to Forrester about this just yesterday, and they mentioned that even within the US now, there are a few companies that are using WhatsApp and other communication channels that typically are considered in the US kind of non-professional, as ways to communicate with their customers directly. And I was surprised to hear that there are some fairly big companies that are now doing this. So the big example that they gave me on the phone yesterday is 1-800-Flowers. So maybe some of you have had that experience of interacting with 1-800-Flowers, where they have sent you messages through some mechanism that didn't seem normal. But I think we're seeing more and more of that happen as this automation is able to provide a much higher level of customer service than what we can do through the manual efforts of our human staff today. So let's move on here to the next one. This again is having to do with data. One of the interesting things that this brings in that we didn't talk about in the previous case, though, is that often you're getting data in an unstructured form. So one of the things that we have built into our RPA product that for many other companies is an add-on available either through them or through some other partners at an additional cost. We have artificial intelligence and specifically machine learning that we've built in to intelligently recognize unstructured text. So in cases where you're getting something that is coming via fax, which I know not that many people or industries are using fax anymore, but there is some use of fax still today, especially in healthcare. I'm not sure about insurance if you use faxes or not, but it also could be hard copy that you're receiving. The common case for this is, maybe you have customers fill out a form manually or something like that. And usually that involves then someone on your staff taking that form that was filled out and manually entering in the data into whatever system it needs to go in. So now RPA products, our RPA product natively has the capability to be able to pull that data out for you automatically so that it can be entered into whatever that system is that you're wanting to put it in automatically without requiring a bunch of human effort. So there are two different ways of doing this, depending on what form the data takes when you're receiving it. We can deal with unstructured content, which means that you don't really know what source it's going to come from, and there are just certain pieces of information that you want to get out of it if it exists. And the way that works is you basically tell the system what it is you're looking for and a number of different labels that could be assigned to it. The case that we always use is something like patient name, right? So for a healthcare scenario, I guess since this is insurance, we should say insured name, and that could come in as insured or insured name or just name, or it could come in first name, last name, depending how they provide it to you and who's providing the data to you. And you have the ability to look at it for all of those possible ways, no matter where it is on the pages that you're receiving. So that's the unstructured case. Then the structured case is when you have something like an application or some other kind of form that someone is filling out and it looks the same way all the time. Maybe this is something that's getting output from a system, so you know that you can count on it to look the same way all the time. And in that case, you can train the system then to look for the data in a certain way, in a certain place every time it gets received. And that can increase the confidence level in the data as it gets converted. Let's move on here. This is another case that's really common across a lot of different industries, but I think when you think about the number of emails that you receive in a day just to your personal email account, I'm guessing if you're like me, it's a very large number, and it sometimes gets to the point where you don't even open and read them anymore. You really just, you start deleting based on the easy ones, like for sure you don't care about these ones, and then you try to filter it down before you even research whether or not it needs any action from you. So this is a similar type case related to the emails that are received by case managers and the process that they go through in order to determine what kind of case it was that needs to get created for this particular email and who it should be assigned to based on their particular expertise. So there's lots of different categories that could be mapped to, and obviously automating this process is something that not just saves a lot of time, but also increases the customer experience for the end user, because all that time where previously they had been waiting, the assignment is going to be done much more quickly. Someone is going to get back to them more quickly. And the other thing that isn't always considered is that the person doing that work, whoever's job it was to go through all of those emails and sort through it, make these assignments manually, in almost all cases, they're going to be a lot happier because they don't really want to spend all that time anyway. So to have that completely automated is a great benefit for them as an employee in addition to the benefits to the customer. All right, we really only have time for one more here. This is a really interesting one because this is using some newer types of technologies that not all RPA companies are doing anything with right now. So this is the case for customer onboarding and gathering all the data that is required to establish someone's account initially. So the form that you see there, you know, that's a standard kind of thing that you would normally see. We'll kind of skip over that kind of thing. But the really interesting thing about this is capturing of some of the supporting documentation so that someone's identity can be verified and validated for Know Your Customer. So we came up with a process using RPA that's going to take the documents that are provided and make sure that the photos match and verify the person's identity by going through that process all automatically in the case where it used to be done very manually, where someone would have to physically check these things and validate that it really was the same person on these different sources, the pictures that they were looking at. So at this point, let's see where we are. We got a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to stop here for a minute with the case studies just to see if we have any questions. One question that we already had in the hopper related to RPA in general that often comes up is, so, you know, is this something that is really expensive and wouldn't be appropriate for a smaller office? We know that there are some companies out there that are smaller agencies that maybe have a small back office staff trying to do a lot of things with what they have. And when they start hearing about RPA, they think, man, this is the kind of thing that could really benefit me, but I don't think I could afford it. And I would encourage you, if you find yourself in that position, to give us a call, because we'd be happy to talk to you about the specifics on how this all works. But we have this quick start program that essentially gives you everything that you need to get up and running with RPA for a fixed price. So it kind of takes all of the risk out of the initial implementation for you, because you know what the cost is that you're dealing with up front. And part of the process is us coming in and working with you to identify what is the best process to start with to make sure that you're going to get great ROI out of that initial process. Because a lot of companies go into this doing an initial pilot program to see if it's going to be worth it for them to do more. And this is a great way to get that thing started and be able to prove to all of your other internal stakeholders, hey, this really is something that we should look into and maybe invest a little bit more into. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Kelly to close us out, because we're really out of time and I like to end on time. So thank you for your attention today, and over to you, Kelly.
Okay. Thank you all for joining us today. We certainly appreciate your attendance. Again, if you'd like to review today's webinar, it will be available on demand on our website, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions. Remember to join us for next month's webinar. Thanks again.